Theresa May has two Brexit options remaining in negotiations with the European Union, a political commentator has claimed. Adriel Kasonta, a political consultant and analyst, insisted that Brexit no deal remains one option for Mrs May. Speaking to RT UK, he said, "We have two different options, either have a no deal or the deal will go back to the Parliament. As you rightly said, I think that extension of Article 50 is the most favourable for the British citizens. And for the EU, you can jump out of the ship and see if the sharks will eat you or not. As we can see at the moment, we also have the substitute topic of an independent party coming in," he added. The simple answer is Theresa May and her government is doing is a typical example of Albert Einstein's definition of insanity. Brexit news. Adriel Kasonta claimed the Prime Minister had two options remaining in negotiations. Image Getty RT. "We have two different options, either have a no deal or the deal will go back to the Parliament." Adriel Kasonta, she is trying to do the same over and over again and intends to have a different result. With regards to the Irish backstop, we have heard very clearly from the EU spokesperson that they are not willing to accommodate British willing with regards to the Irish backstop. This week the Prime Minister travelled to Brussels to meet with the European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker to try to break the Brexit deadlock. Speaking after his talks with Mrs May in Brussels, Mr Juncker said UK withdrawal from the EU without a deal would have terrible economic and social consequences. In a joint statement issued after Wednesday's meeting, the Prime Minister and Mr Juncker acknowledged they were in a race against time to reach a workable deal before the scheduled date of Brexit on March 29. The statement said the Prime Minister and Mr Juncker will review progress again in the coming days, seized of the tight timescale and the historic significance of setting the EU and the UK on a path to a deep and unique future partnership. On Thursday, a spokesman for the Department for Exiting the EU said Brexit Secretary Stephen Barclay and Attorney General Geoffrey Cox held productive talks with EU Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier. The statement read, "Yesterday, the Prime Minister reiterated that the simplest way to get legally binding changes on the backstop is to reopen the withdrawal agreement. That remains the government's position." The Prime Minister and President Juncker agreed that work would now focus on guarantees relating to the backstop that underline once again its temporary nature and give appropriate legal assurance to both sides, as well as alternative arrangements and the political declaration to reach a mutually acceptable agreement. Today, Secretary of State Stephen Barclay and the Attorney General held productive talks with Michel Barnier and his team on these three areas. They discussed the positions of both sides and agreed to focus on what we can do to conclude a successful deal as soon as possible. It was agreed that talks should now continue urgently at a technical level. The Secretary of State and the Attorney General will discuss again with Michel Barnier early next week. The Attorney General will also explore legal options with the Commission's